Hey, this is part one of a book review. Here's the book called Solving the MS Multiple Sclerosis Mystery by Hal Huggins. This guy's like, him and Weston Price are the two most famous dentists who ever lived, the two greatest dentists who ever lived. And solving the MS mystery, the conclusion he came to was he thinks the most common cause of multiple sclerosis is dental mercury amalgams and root canals. Okay, he removed the amalgams and root canals from over 1,000 multiple sclerosis patients, and he claims dramatic improvement in many of the patients. He says he saw a bunch of patients who were in wheelchairs, be able to get up pretty soon after that and walk. So, do I believe him? I actually think he's telling the truth. Okay, the reason I think he's telling the truth is he doesn't have anything to gain by lying. He suffered tremendous consequences for believing in this. His dental license was revoked. He was hassled a tremendous amount by the dental establishment. He had gone through all the research, and like Storterbrecker had shown, the veins in the jaw connect to the veins in the brain. They don't have any valves. They have bidirectional flow. The mercury can cross the blood-brain barrier. Thus, it has access to the brain through the vascular system, can cross the blood-brain barrier, and then cause damage to nerve tissue in that way. In addition, inhaled mercury vapor can be taken up, and it can go into the brain. In addition, you can get retroaxonal transport, backwards transport along nerves into the brain. So it definitely gets into the brain. At autopsy, they've shown that it shows up in the brain. If you put dental amalgams into a sheep, this is Dr. Vimy did this work with some of his colleagues. If you put dental amalgams into a sheep, and then 28 days later, they'll find some in the brain and a lot in the kidneys and the liver and a few other places, okay? Then people say, well, a sheep is always grinding its teeth, so that's an unfair example. So they put it in a monkey. And in the monkey, they got the same results. It showed up in the brain, in the kidneys, and a few other places, the liver, because the liver helps excrete it. Okay, so anyways, this is the book. It's a masterpiece. I think this is, I made a previous book called The Top 50 Books in Health and Nutrition with a whole bunch of honorable mention books, which really kind of led to the top 60 books. And this is now in it. And I would say since that time, I probably found about 10 more. That was probably about a year and a half ago I wrote that book. And this is one of them. This is one of the all-time great books of health and nutrition. And why is this so great? Because you have to understand, the public thinks you go to the doctor and you get better. That's not how it works. The vast majority of patients never get better. There's no cure. There's no pill that cures diabetes, hypertension, atherosclerosis, and that's what all the patients have, okay? And cognitive decline is ubiquitous, okay? Like I said, I got internal medicine friends tell me every single patient on their service over 60 years of age is always cognitively slow. They said they're all stupid. They said it's sad. They all have slow brains, chronic brain degeneration, okay? Anyways, so the good news here is that you can have an MS patient. I think Swank is on the right track. I think more multiple sclerosis is caused by dietary problems like Swank had said and McDougall had said. However, they do have patients that don't get better with dietary improvements, Dr. Swank, Dr. McDougall. And what I'm saying is they should look into the teeth, and I will bet you that the teeth are usually the cause in that setting. Oh, actually, let me show his picture. I kind of put myself over him to start out. This is the guy, Hal Huggins, okay? And he sort of came across this information accidentally. He had patients where he took out their amalgams, and they were cured from multiple sclerosis, cured from a bunch of other diseases. He's like, holy crap, this is valuable. So he was so impressed by all this, he started going back and doing research on amalgams. He went and he stopped doing dentistry for a while. He went and got a master's degree in immunology. He wanted to understand it. What was happening? Why were these patients sick? So this guy is a genius, and he paid his dues, and he suffered tremendous personal costs, legal problems, all kinds of stuff to do the right thing. So he's a very impressive guy. These are the kind of guys who deserve a Nobel Prize, but you'll never be told about them because they don't support the establishment of money making. And I can tell you, I did previous recent lectures on the history of ostracized geniuses in conventional medicine and in dentistry. And this is pretty much the standard case. The best dentists, the best doctors, they're not in any medical books. Dr. McDougall's not in any conventional medical book. Hal Huggins and Weston Price aren't in any conventional dental textbooks, okay? When somebody actually makes an improvement in healthcare that doesn't generate money for the establishment, they discredit the guy, vilify him, censor him. Okay, so Hal Huggins says that dental amalgams are a Trojan horse. They pretend to be something good coming in to fill your teeth, and they're really poisoning you, putting mercury into your body. And he jokes that the old dental rhyme is drill 'em, fill 'em, and bill 'em. Like conventional medicine, it's match the old to the pill and send the bill. With dentistry, it's drill them, drill them, fill them, and bill them. And he jokes, and the fourth part is kill them slowly with these poisons. Okay, so Trojan Horse by Dominic Tiepolo. Okay, beautiful painting there. The ancient Greeks. Here's a more detailed painting of the ancient Greeks. This is how they won the Trojan War. They got into the city of Troy at night and sacked it. Okay. Cassandra, the prophetess, had warned them, beware of Greeks bearing gifts. Do not let that Trojan horse into Troy. But they did, and people let the amalgams into their mouths, and they had problems. This painting is by Henry Paul Mote, 1874. Magnificent painting. Here is a summary statement on multiple sclerosis and dental mercury. This is by the IAOMT. IAOMT is the International Academy of Oral Medicine and Toxicology. So these guys are pretty smart. It was founded by a couple dentists, including Dr. Vimy, who were pissed off about all these toxic chemicals in dental materials that were hurting the patients, and the establishment of dentistry did not want to acknowledge this. So they founded this society of like-minded persons to try to do more research on this and figure out what was really going on. So anyways, if you want to see their position statement, you can look this up in 5 seconds on the internet. Multiple sclerosis and dental mercury, okay? IAOMT position statement. Okay, here's a paper by Dr. Hal Huggins and cerebrospinal fluid protein changes in multiple sclerosis after dental amalgam removal. So basically what he was finding was they had a whole bunch of abnormal proteins in the cerebrospinal fluid. When you do a spinal tap on these MS patients, and they couldn't really figure out what it was, and what they think it was is just necrosis of brain tissue, like scratching the brain with a claw and just dead brain tissue sloughing into the CSF. Rather disgusting, but I've seen the papers. I've seen the gel electrophoresis of it, and Boyd Haley, the brilliant biochemist, helped them with this. Okay, this is big stuff. I'm telling you guys. This is an AO, academic orgasm, because what this means is a whole bunch of patients who were doomed to die, who were screwed. There was nothing you could do. No diet could help them. No medical, surgical technology, bullshitology could help them. And they now could be saved. You take out their amalgams, you take out their root canals. This is great news. This is a major way to save a lot of people. Okay? So it's good to know that it exists. I can tell you, I've never in my life met a doctor who knows that this exists. All right, this is just showing the incidence of multiple sclerosis is increasing, and there's an argument, devil's advocate argument to this. They'll say, well, the criteria are such that it's easier to diagnose it now, so more people get diagnosed. They say there's secondary gain to diagnosis because they can make more money treating it. They say MRIs make it much more easy to diagnose, which they do. Other people say the incidence of MS is increasing since 1974 because the copper amalgams, the copper is an additive to the alloy to make the mixture for dental amalgams. The copper causes 50 times more mercury escape, and they've been putting that in as the main type since about 1976. Okay, and also people are eating a worse and worse diet, which also might be contributing to the increasing incidence of autoimmune disease and multiple sclerosis. What's his name? He thinks it's, this is just a note to myself to look at the references. All right, here's the guy, Boyd Haley. I already made a video about him talking about the different types of mercury. Basically, you've got elemental mercury. That's what's put into the amalgams, and that just means the element, mercury by itself. It has no charge when it vaporizes. The unique thing about mercury, it's a heavy metal, but uniquely about it in comparison, it's very similar to lead, but lead is solid at room temperature. Mercury is a liquid. Quicksilver, the little mercury beads, and just warm them up a little bit, and they can start to vaporize. They continually vaporize at a slow rate off your amalgams. And you don't want to brush over them with a toothbrush, or you don't want to go for dental cleaning, because when you clear out that corrosion, then they vaporize more. So I would never brush over them. Okay. What I currently do is I just have a toothbrush, and I currently don't even use toothpaste anymore. I just brush with a bland, soft bristle toothbrush over the sides of my teeth. I do not brush over the top because I do have a few amalgams, so that's what I do. Inside of a cell, the mercury vapor, the Hg, gets converted to ionic mercury, also called inorganic mercury. When there's a carbon bound to it, it's organic mercury. When there's no carbon bound to it, it's inorganic mercury. When it's just by itself, it's elemental mercury. And it'll become ionic, 2+. And once it's 2+, it has a 2+ valence charge on it, it can't get out of the cell. Okay, mercury has a tendency to accumulate in the kidneys and cause kidney damage. It also impairs collagen synthesis, not good. When mercury is bound to methyl groups, bacteria in the mouth can convert it to methyl mercury. Thimerosal, the preservative, is ethyl mercury. Whenever it has a carbons bound to it, like in methyl or ethyl, then it's organic, called organic mercury. And the point being, again, once of all, it is lipophilic, meaning it's nonpolar, meaning it can cross plasma membranes. That means it can cross the blood-brain barrier, get into the brain. One thing, too, a lot of people say, well, I checked my blood test, I checked my urine test, there wasn't much mercury there. That means I don't have much mercury. No, it doesn't. The blood and the urine are only an index of acute exposure, and even the urine is highly variable. It turns out that girls excrete 30 times as much mercury in their urine as boys do, and that's thought to be one of the reasons why boys are more sensitive to mercury toxicity. Okay, intracellular mercury. Once it's inside the cell and it gains a 2+ charge, it's ionic mercury. It is attracted to the mitochondria because of a strong negative charge along the inner mitochondrial membrane, which has a negative gradient of about negative 165 to 180 even millivolts. Okay, buku, negative charge, the strongest gradient in the human body. And then it'll get into that mitochondria, it'll do damage. It'll bind to the sulfurs on the iron-sulfur clusters, and it binds so tight to the sulfur that the iron is knocked off, and now you have free iron dropping into the mitochondrial matrix. And that free iron drops in the mitochondrial matrix, it can catalyze the Fenton reaction, producing hydroxyl radicals, which is really bad. The inability to transport electrons means electrons are dropping down into the mitochondrial matrix, and those will then combine with oxygen to form superoxides, and that can, obviously you'll neutralize those pretty fast by superoxide dismutase, but potentially those can go on to participate in Fenton reactions with the free iron and damage DNA, and that damage to DNA is thought to increase the risk potentially for cancer. It certainly destroys your mitochondria over time, which can kill the cell, force the cell into apoptosis, so it's bad, okay? Electrical current, he was a pioneer of studying this as well, Hal Huggins, and he basically says that whenever you have two pieces of metal in your mouth, the saliva is conductive fluid. You can get a current flowing between the two amalgams, the metal, through the saliva, which is a conductive fluid. He said silver fillings have 5 different metals in them. These always have a positive charge by themselves. However, he said once they put a lot of copper in them, then most of those will generate a negative electrical current. He says when you have a negative electrical environment, the elemental mercury coming off the teeth is 50 times as much, and it's rapidly converted into the more harmful version of mercury, the methyl mercury. Okay, so that's bad. He says you can't get all the mercury out of your body, but what you really want to accomplish is to excrete it faster than you take it in. Okay? All right, so this is an introduction to solving the multiple sclerosis mystery. This will be part 1 of the book review of this book by Hal Huggins, and I'll do part 2 as separate. Hope you found this helpful.